Well, good morning, everyone. We want to thank you for being here. Welcome to the historic Fort McIntosh campus of Laredo College. My name is Ruben Villarreal. I'm the Public Information Officer for Laredo College. We're in the Guadalupe and Lilia Martinez Fine and Performing Arts Center, specifically right here on the Keilson stage. And today we honor a man who meant a great deal to this college, to a time that seems so far away, 1952, when Sir Stanley started his time here at what at the time was Laredo Junior College. And so today we have many fine people here to speak on his behalf and to remember him and to thank him and to spend time with one another in his memory. And so we thank you for joining us. We welcome you. And at this time, I'd like to welcome the president of Laredo College, Dr. Minita Ramirez.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to our historic Fort McIntosh campus. We're so honored today to be in your presence and to be in this extremely beautiful Martinez Fine and Performing Arts Center, and specifically on the Keilson stage. Today, we honor an icon, a man, a friend, a teacher, the professor, the perfectionist, the linguistic initiator for many of us, but more importantly, we honor the person who helped begin theater in Laredo. In 1980, I walked into a classroom as a student here at Laredo College. I had no idea then just how much my professor's passion for language, performance, and education would shape my life. He taught me not just how to speak, but how to connect, how to listen, and how to carry myself with confidence. His impact on my life and on so many others cannot be overstated. All of us here today have a story, a beautiful memory, or an incredible Stanleyism to share with each other. Thank you for joining us on this very special day. When I returned to Laredo College years later as president, I was a bit disheartened to discover the only public recognition of Stanley's name is a small plaque tucked away in one of our hallways entrance to the stage that bears his name. For me, that just wasn't enough. It didn't reflect the legacy of a man who gave more than 3 decades of his life to this institution and inspired generations of students and community members. Today, on what would have been his 100th birthday, we are taking a meaningful step to correct that. We're unveiling a beautiful portrait of Stanley painted with love by his nephew, Sam Hurwitz, and a new commemorative plaque that tells the story of his remarkable life, his service to our country, his passion for the arts, and his unwavering dedication to education. This plaque will hang inside this theater, where all who pass through these doors can read the story and be enriched by it. If you look to the back of the theater, where everyone will walk by, our students are standing where the plaque and portrait will hang. We didn't hang them today because we're in the process of making some renovations to the lobby and to the theater. And at that point, that will happen. In addition, above this theater, there is a blank space where his name and a quote by him will be engraved forever. Our setting today, meaningful. This campus was once a U.S. Army fort, has long been a place of training, transformation, and service. Stanley was both a soldier and a teacher. He embodied the very mission of Laredo College to educate, uplift, train, and inspire. The stage behind me is currently set up for a little party today for all of us to celebrate, but for the Laredo Theater Guild's summer production of School of Rock. A story about young people discovering their voices through music. How fitting. How fitting that we are gathered on this very stage, in the exact space to honor a man who spent his entire life helping others do the very same thing. Stanley A. Keilson was a Laredo icon of the arts, a gifted educator, a very proud veteran, and a cherished member of our Laredo College family. Today, we celebrate his legacy. We remember him with gratitude, and we ensure that all who come after us will know his story. I'm going to close with the words of a friend of this college, a veteran himself, and a friend of Stanley's, Mr. Alford, who said, and you may have read it in the paper, he answered the call and then came home to build something extraordinary. We're standing on it and in it. Ladies and gentlemen, with that I ask for a moment of silence and remembrance on what would have been Stanley's 100th birthday. Mr. Keilson, I know you're listening, so happy birthday. Enjoy. Please help me welcome to the stage a gentleman who needs no introduction, who is also one of our greats in theater in Laredo, Joe Arciniega.
Thank you so much, Minita, and for your beautiful and inspiring words. You must have had a good teacher. I'm a little awestruck right now because this day, today, these tributes, the generous accommodations, I suppose I should say, from Laredo College and from the Guadalupe and Lilia Martinez Foundation. This has been a 10-year project, passion for me. Stan's only been gone 8 years, 7. So you can imagine he had plenty to say about it when we first started talking about this. And the first thing he said was, Joe, save yourself the effort and time. It'll never happen. It won't. I'm just an educator. I'm just an actor. They don't put our names on or in buildings. We don't have what that may require, as honorable and noble as that may be. And I said to him, well, you're not just Stanley Keilson. You are Stanley Keilson. I said, this will happen. Well, it took 3 college presidents, and I'm so grateful to you, Minita, and to your team for your generosity. I spoke to Shirley Gonzalez about this when we were blessed enough to be guests of theirs at their place in Santa Fe, Tina and me, a good amount of years ago, I think. And look, here we are, and how fitting that it is his centenary. I'm going to go very quickly through who you're going to be hearing from today. And we figure we're going to break it out because there were so many aspects of Stanley. Stanley the teacher, Stanley the actor, Stanley the soldier, the neighbor, the friend, the scholarship fund. And then it's going to be my honor and pleasure to welcome the Keilson Hurwitz family up here to the stage so that you can see and get to know them, and then give them a head start on our celebration that's happening right here. I'd like to read a piece I wrote about Stanley right after he died. I had a column in a magazine called Cream City Magazine, so I had the floor and I was able to write whatever I wanted. The print is really small, so you're going to see me squint, so no pictures while I'm... I titled it The Unforgettable. The actress was sitting in a small chair with her back to the audience, as the actor playing opposite her was circling and talking. He was in full view. She was not. Only her long neck and the back of her stiff blonde coiffure were visible. But she remained silent and still. Her lean right arm laconically dropped to her side and settled, palm out, against the back of the chair. And then, without words, Jessica Tandy began to command the scene. Her white hands were larger than expected for someone of her so slight. They didn't need much movement to reach the back of the theater. A flicker of her 2 middle fingers. Her forefinger rubbing against her thumb. A slow, gentle closing of her fist, and an even slower reopening of it. For the rest of the scene, Jessica Tandy was the focus, above the din of words, as her hand betrayed her unsaid thoughts to the audience alone. Jessica Tandy was a stage and film actress who died, at this time I wrote this, 25 years ago. She is mostly known for having won the Academy Award for Driving Miss Daisy in 1989. But theater fans might know that she also won the Tony Award in 1948 on Broadway as Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire, a role that she lost to Vivien Leigh for the movie. I was not in the audience for that performance. I wasn't even born yet. But I feel as if I were there, because my late great friend Stanley Keilson was. And his reenactment of it for me brought it to vivid life. Stan was in New York in the late 1940s and until 1952. A veteran of World War II. Oof, he would kill me for that one. How dare you? And a graduate of Trinity University in San Antonio. He was working toward his master's at Columbia University and preparing to launch a New York acting career. While there, he saw every Broadway play he could afford by purchasing discounted standing room only balcony tickets and waiting through intermission to see if any patrons in their orchestra seats failed to return for the second act. He would then walk down and settle in there for the rest of the performance. For this one, he sat in the front row, center, and was transfixed. Almost 70 years later, then, in the retelling of this one moment, in this unforgettable stage performance, Stan presented Jessica Tandy so completely that it became my own memory of her, that I could now write about with such precise detail. Such are some unforgettable moments and some unforgettable people. The first time I saw Stanley Keilson, he was on stage too. It was in the mid-1970s, and newly immersed in theater then, I had heard that Sir Stanley was performing in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum at Laredo Junior College in their Theater in the Round Arena Theater. By then, Stan had been on the faculty there since 1952, eventually as theater director and chairman of Department of Speech and Drama. But he wasn't ready to leave his acting days behind him. Together with Hortense Offerly, in the mid-1950s, directing and acting in several successful productions. So by the time I settled into my seat to see him live for the very first time, I had already heard about his legendary performances as Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady in 1965, and later Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. I was ready for an unforgettable theater night, and I got one. Some years later, we actually co-starred in a musical together, The Fantastics, for Laredo Little Theater. I played the title role, which he frequently reminded me of. He played the role, shame on you, Stanley, for doing that to me. He played the role of the old Shakespearean actor, Henry, unleashing the full potency of his presence upon us all. His wit and nuance, his language precision and diction, his eyes, mouth, hands, feet, and posture, all in full deployment for the maximum effect upon a dazzled audience. Again, unforgettable. Within that time, we became dear friends. Though never equals, never. He was always the star, always my mentor, always the great Sir Stanley, who delivered as much panache in his living room as he did in the spotlight. He died at the age of 93. The last 4 years of his life were difficult for him to endure and for me to witness. But we did it because neither of us wanted him to go. In the early hours of a suddenly rainy October 15th, as the funeral director and his assistant reverently carried Stan, covered and unseen, out of his bedroom through the front room, where a handful of us quietly sat. It suddenly made sense. And we began spontaneously, one by one. We stood and applauded and continued as they carried him out to the storm. An unforgettable moment with the unforgettable Stanley Keilson. So, I didn't think of this when I conceived of this. But I'll get us there. And here's why. Because Stanley was never Stanley without a performance. In tribute to Stanley, for probably his most iconic role was Henry Higgins in the 1965 production of My Fair Lady. That was the inaugural performance of the Laredo Civic Center Auditorium, which ended up hosting traveling Broadway shows for many years after that. I offer you this. Why don't the English teach their children how to speak? Why? Look at them. Children of the gutter, condemned by every syllable they utter. By right, they should be taken out and hung for the cold-blooded murder of the English tongue. Their answer? Ow! Heavens, what a noise. This is what the British population calls an elementary education. You think I exaggerate? Hear them down in Soho Square, dropping H's everywhere, speaking English any way they like. I asked one, did you go to school? His answer, what do you take me for, a fool? No one taught him take instead of tyke. Hear a Yorkshireman, or worse, hear a Cornishman speak verse. I'd rather hear a choir singing flat. Chickens cackling in a barn, just like they say, gone. I ask you, what sort of language is that? It's ow and gone that keep them in their place, not their dirty clothes or wretched face. Why can't the English teach their children how to speak? This verbal class distinction by now should be antique. If you spoke English, sir, the way that they do, why, you might be selling flowers too. An Englishman's way of speaking absolutely classifies him. The moment he talks, he makes another Englishman despise him. One formal language makes why can't the English learn to set a good example to people whose English is painful to your ears? The Scotch and the Irish keep me close to tears. There even are places where English completely disappears. In America, you haven't used it for years. Why can't the English teach their children how to speak? Norwegians have Norwegian. The Greeks have got their Greek. In France, every Frenchman knows the language from A to Z. Actually, the French don't care what they do as long as they pronounce it properly. Arabians speak Arabian with the speed of summer lightning. The Hebrews do it backwards, which is absolutely frightening. One, speak proper English, you're regarded as a freak. Oh, why can't the English learn to Thank you. Next up, we're inviting Gail Akers Rodriguez. She is going to share with us some of her memories of not only being in Stanley's class, but also in the cast of that My Fair Lady production that was 60 years ago. So I asked Gail, what were you, 2 months old?
Well, this might get emotional. I felt I had a dramatic streak, so what better than drama class? Just a footnote. A dramatic streak does not necessarily mean a talent for drama on the stage. But back in the early 70s, after a short time at St. Edward's University in Austin, I had moved back to Laredo at the request of my father to help with family matters. This is a difficult time for me, as I had dreamed of my new life in Austin for so long, away from turbulent and at times difficult childhood. Moving to Austin was supposed to be the beginning of me realizing the goals I had set for myself and that I had worked very hard, often with minimal family support, to achieve. After I returned, I enrolled at Laredo Community College and signed up for Mr. Keilson's drama class, hoping to shed myself of some of my insecurities and shyness through acting. Stanley was a talented and stringent professor. He expected hesitation to fall away under his tutelage, and for most of us in his class, it worked. Due to Stanley's unending patience for mentoring and his own self-confidence, he instilled in each of us a certain amount of bravery that allowed us to perform in front of first an audience of our peers, and then eventually local theater lovers and family members. During my time at LCC, I began working at Joe Brand downtown, first as a gift wrapper at Christmas, then in the sales department, and eventually made my way up to becoming a buyer for the women's clothing department. This experience eventually led me to open my own clothing store with my dear friend Linda at Mal del Norte called Deja Vu. After the devaluation of the peso upset our local economy, we were forced to close the store and return to college again. I returned to college once again to become a U.S. Customs broker in 1998, which is my current profession to this day. I believe Stanley helped me and countless other Laredoans who studied under him face our insecurities and self-doubts head on, and allowed us to come out of our shells and blossom into more confident young adults with strong beliefs that we could overcome our fears and accomplish whatever we set out our minds to. I thank him dearly for helping me during those formative years in my life when I needed a teacher like him to inspire me and help guide me through. Sorry. As a small footnote, my brother Robbie and I performed as children alongside Stanley and Hortense Ruthinger in a production of My Fair Lady in 1965, where they shone in the lead roles. We were all in awe of their talent and professionalism. Thank you for believing in the potential of young people of our town and dedicating your life to the arts, Stanley. You are truly missed as a local artist, educator, and as my longtime friend and neighbor. Now, the neighbor part. So we had a dog named Max, and he was given to my son, and he was a mix, and he was a very independent soul. Max used to leave our house and go visit the neighbors, and I'm sure Patricia Barrera is here, and she probably recognizes that he went to visit her too. But he would go to visit Stanley, and Stanley would open the door and let him in, and then we knew Max would come back later on when he finished visiting everybody down the street. He outran our animal control people 3 times, once having been caught and escaping, we don't know how, and we just opened the door and let him run back in. One afternoon, Stanley came by the house and he said, "Gail, I really want to adopt Max." And I said, "But Stanley, Max is Esteban's dog, you know. I don't know that you know." And I said, "But he's so independent. I don't think he'll stay. He'll just stay for a while, but he's always going to come back home. And sure enough, and I said, I think it's lovely that you want him. I mean, I know he's all around the place, but he really does live here. And Max would leave in the afternoon or come back, and he'd always come back home. So that was one thing I thought we all cherished, that he really loved Max as much as we did. Thank you.
The reading is from the first act of Death of a Salesman. And at the beginning, there is a stage direction. I think I can do that. So much. There is a stage direction that indicates the show opens with flute music. And the stage direction is a melody is heard, played upon a flute. It is small and fine, telling of grass, trees, and the horizon. Linda, it's all right. I came back. No, nothing happened. I'm tired to the death. I couldn't make it. I just couldn't make it, Linda. I got as far as a little above Yonkers. I stopped for a cup of coffee. Maybe it was the coffee. I suddenly couldn't drive anymore. The car kept going off the shoulder, you know. Suddenly, I realized I'm going 60 miles an hour, and I don't remember the last 5 minutes. I can't seem to keep my mind to it. It's not my glasses. I see everything. I came back 10 miles an hour. It took me nearly 4 hours from Yonkers. I got plenty of rest before. I'll start out in the morning. Maybe I'll feel better in the morning. I was driving along, you understand? I was fine. I was even observing the scenery. Imagine me looking at scenery on the road every week in my life. But it's so beautiful up there, Linda. The trees are so thick. The sun is so warm. I opened the windshield and just let the warm air bathe over me. And then all of a sudden, I'm going off the road. I'm telling you, I absolutely forgot I was driving. If I'd have gone the other way over the white line, I might have killed somebody. So I went on again. And 5 minutes later, I'm dreaming again, and I have such thoughts. I have such strange thoughts. I could work in New York, but they don't need me in New York. I'm the New England man. I'm vital in New England. I have to send a wire to Portland. I'm supposed to see Brown and Morrison tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to show the line. God damn it, I could sell them. If old man Wagner was alive, I'd have been in charge of New York now. The man was a prince. He was a masterful man. That boy of his, that Howard, he don't appreciate. When I went north the first time, the Wagner Company didn't know where New England was. I have to tell that Howard those things. I will. I definitely will. I went to make a cheese sandwich. And the only cheese we have is some package of American type cheese that's whipped. I don't want that. I want Swiss. I don't want to change. Why am I always being contradicted? No fresh air here now. Doesn't matter if you open all the windows. The way they boxed us in here, bricks and windows, windows and bricks. We should have bought that land next door. The street is lined with cars. There's not a breath of fresh air in the neighborhood. The grass don't grow anymore. You can't raise a carrot in the backyard. They should have had a law against apartment houses. Remember those two beautiful elm trees out there? They should have arrested that builder for cutting those down. They massacred the neighborhood. More and more I think of those days, Linda. This time of year it was lilac and wisteria. Then the peonies would come out, and the daffodils. What fragrance in this room. There's more people now. There's more people. That's what's ruining this country. Population is getting out of control. The competition is maddening. Smell the stink from that apartment house? And another one on the other side. How can they whip cheese? You're not worried about me, are you? You're not worried about me, sweetheart. You're my foundation and my support, Linda. I was thinking of the Chevy. Now, isn't that peculiar? That is the most remarkable thing. 1928, when I had that red Chevy. That's funny. I could have sworn I was driving that Chevy today. Remarkable. Cheese. Remember those days? The way Biff used to simonize that car. The dealer refused to believe there was 80,000 miles on it. My God, if business don't pick up, I don't know what I'm going to do. Next week, I'll do better. Oh, I'll knock them dead next week. I'll go to Hartford. I'm very well liked in Hartford. You know, the trouble is, Linda, people don't seem to take to me. I know it when I walk in. They seem to laugh at me. I don't know the reason for it, but they just pass me by. I'm not noticed. I talk too much. I don't know why I can't stop myself. A man ought to come in with a few words. Well, I figure, what the hell, life is short, a couple of jokes. I joke too much. I'm fat. I'm very foolish to look at, Linda. I didn't tell you, but Christmas time, I happened to be calling on F.H. Stewart's. And a salesman I know, as I was going in to see the buyer, I heard him say something about walrus. I cracked him right across the face. Won't take that. They do laugh at me. I know that. Linda? By the way, you look on the back of your program, I assume that that role is Henry Albertson, the old actor in Fantastics. Of all the roles that Stanley played, and I never saw him on stage as an actor. And that is a regret that I have, but Mary Grace and I just didn't get here fast enough. But of all the roles that he played, I would love to see that one the most. Thank you.
Goodness. Thank you, Vernon. Just amazing to hear your words, hear you perform that. And you may not have seen Stanley on stage, but he saw you plenty of times since the very first time we did a play together, you and me, the last time we did. And he admired your work. Next up, one of those surprising things, people keep being surprised about Stanley, is his service as a soldier. And there isn't anyone in town that I would want to have speak to that more than Douglas Alford. Doug, where are you? Yes, sir.
The way I can describe Stanley Keilson is like a diamond. A diamond has to be manufactured. When it's manufactured, it has many facets. Every time you turn it, you see a different facet. It's like Stanley Keilson. Experience with him is like many facets, different subjects, different times. A pleasure, a real pleasure to know Stanley. I make no apologize about my speech. It's long, but we need to honor these veterans that went to war for this country. 25 to 3,000 individuals left from Laredo, Webb County. Many of them didn't come back. 15% of those are from across the river. Stanley Keilson, son of Charles Keilson and Lucille Horowitz Keilson, graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School in San Antonio, Texas in May of 1943. Stanley was drafted by the Armed Forces of the United States Army in November of 1943. He was sworn into the service at Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio. After being sworn in, he was transferred to Fort Hood for basic training. Now, let me say something here. Many of you say that he is a staff sergeant, E5. Now, that is not normal for a 2-year tour. What the military does, they take their men, they give them aptitude, attitude, and interviews. If they pick out a prize, someone that has extra intelligence, extra abilities, they are promoted, skipped promotions to a higher grade to get the most use out of these individuals. This is what happened to Stanley. He was a staff sergeant, E5. That's normally a 5-year tour. He was in the service for 2 years. So he made it because he was evaluated, accepted, and promoted above and beyond. A staff sergeant is somebody, according to the term staff, he is between the lieutenants and the corporals and the privates. The corporals and the privates answer to him. So he had leadership qualities that they discovered, and they used them. And he was used by the Army to the benefit of the United States. Upon a successful completing basic training, he was sent to Camp Shelby near Hattiesburg, Mississippi for advanced training. While at Camp Shelby, he was assigned to the 1487th Engineering Maintenance Company in 1944. This is one of the companies that maintains tanks, trucks, ships, boats, everything in the service. While at engineering with Stanley was transferred to Camp Pickett near Richmond, Virginia for advanced training before going overseas. From Camp Pickett, he was transferred to Camp Butler in Durham, North Carolina for additional training. Here he got pistol, rifle, and so on and so forth training, fighting training. In January 1945, Stanley took a train trip across the United States to Pittsfield near San Francisco, California. On January the 19th, 1945, Stanley boarded a troop transport ship to the South Pacific. Now, this was a luxury liner. It housed 3,000 to 3,500 troops in luxury. And they used those liners because they could outrun the Japanese submarines. The cruise line would run approximately 28 to 35 knots. The submarines couldn't match them. The ship traveled north to New Guinea, where it was attacked by a Japanese Navy. They could not land in Manila, so they went north to the island of Luzon, which is the northern part of the Philippine Islands, and then back to Manila to disembark. He was then transferred to Clark Air Base on the island of Luzon in the Philippines, where he was stationed until November 1945. Keilson's unit was in training for the invasion and the occupation of Japan, and were in position in the northern part of the island of Luzon in the Philippines for that purpose. Whenever President Truman dropped the 2 bombs on the Japanese mainland, Japan surrendered and the war ended for 1945. You remember the photo of the sailor kissing the nurse? That's that Manhattan. That's an ideal picture. In November, Stanley's unit was dispatched from Japan as an occupational troops. His first landed in Fukuoka on the island of Kyushu. After completing his tour in Fukuoka, Japan, he was shipped out of Yokohama, Japan to Seattle, Washington. After landing in Seattle, Stanley was transferred by train to Fort Bliss, Texas. And everybody knows where Fort Bliss is, in El Paso. At Fort Bliss, he was discharged from the Army in April of 23rd, 1946. Stanley received the honorable discharge from the United States Army, and during the tour of his duty, he was awarded several medals, including the Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Medal, Victory Medal, World War II Victory Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, Philippine Liberation Medals. That means he did not stand still. That means he was active, he did something. He was all over the island, and he was a young man, just out of high school. He did all this before he could vote, before he could drink beer legally. So he did this, and he did it because he had the strength and the fortitude, and it was recognized by the military that he had that. They may not have understood Stanley Keilson, but they used him for what he was capable of doing. He is a hero, he was a hero, and he is only one of 2,500 from Laredo and Zapata that went to war and came back as heroes. And after he came back, you're hearing about everything that he did after he came back to the 3,000 population town of Laredo and made a spot for himself. And it's my pleasure to tell you this. I love doing this because it's not spoken of very much, and I love doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doug. Rank Lieutenant Commander, United States Naval Reserve, and we admire all the work that you do on behalf of veterans here in Laredo. We're so grateful to you. Next up, is Pati here? Patricia Barrera? There you are. I'm looking for you. Please make your way up here. I want to introduce Patricia Barrera. She is our Webb County Tax Assessor Collector and happened to live right next door to Stanley on Fremont, Pati and her sister, Mirta. And so I've asked Pati to say a few words about Stan as her neighbor. As she's making her way up, I also want to recognize Pati for being with us in those final days with Stan, saying prayers over Stan. We were so grateful. and he was still awake at certain points and was absolutely grateful to have you do it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I graduated in 1969, and in 1970, I had a class as an elective on speech, and I was one of Dr. Keilson's students and thoroughly enjoyed it. I saw some of his plays, but I really got to know him when back in 2001, we purchased the house next door to him. I did not know at the time, and we became neighbors, and he was always outside watering. He really took care of his yard and his house, and he was just a wonderful neighbor. And he had his cats. I don't remember a dog with him, but all I remember are he had some beautiful cats. And we would always visit with him whenever I cooked out. I always went next door and took him some carne asada, because I knew he was living by himself. And both Mirta and I, my sister Mirta, we enjoyed him as a neighbor. He was a character. I mean, that's, everybody knows that. And even if you were his student, you knew it, because he was acting the whole time. And it was just, I had never had a teacher like him. So I was around towards the end with Joe and the other ladies who were there when his last few days. It was sad, but he had a good life, and that's what we have to be grateful for, that the Lord blessed him mightily. He had a wonderful life, and he had an impact on so many young people, and even older people. As we got older, he was still a character, and we enjoyed him. And I have only good things to say about Stanley, and I imagine everybody here today has a story or something to share about how he was kind and thoughtful for others, but he was still a character. So I just want to say thank you to Joe for allowing me to say a few words, and it's been a pleasure knowing him and being his neighbor. I still live next door to Stan's home. And one other thing, I don't know if many people know, but Stan was a very good son. He took care of his elderly mother, and he was a wonderful son. And I guess not too many people know that, but that was a character that I think everybody has to hold up, that he took care of his mother till the last day of her life. And I know the Lord has blessed him for that and continued blessing them for honoring his mother. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pati, and thank you for mentioning his Stanley as a son. Certainly his family knows very well Estelle Horowitz, and obviously was with Stan. He took her everywhere when he brought her home to live with him when she became more fragile. And I remember her being Estelle being his date at my mom's 50th birthday party. So that'll tell you how long ago that probably was. She just turned 85. But he did. He cared for her till the very end. Thank you for bringing up Estelle Horowitz. Next up is, I asked one of his dearest friends, Leslie Lepovitz. They're always at this party or that party or this event, and she was an attentive, lovely person to Stanley, and he loved her so much. So to speak about Stanley as the friend, Leslie and her husband are on a cruise for an anniversary or a special event, but we've asked her daughter, Tori, to come, and Leslie wrote some words, and Tori is going to share those words with us.
coming up, just slapping papers out of people's hands. Good morning, everyone. Wow, I am so happy to be here today and join you all today as I represent my mother, Leslie Lepovitz-Young, who, as Joe mentioned, would love to be here, but in the spirit of Stanley's passion for travel is also on a trip as my parents kind of kick off early celebrations for their almost 40 years of marriage. And they are traveling up the Danube. So I am here on her behalf as we all are here today to honor and commemorate Stanley Keilson. Stanley Keilson was so many things to so many people throughout his life. He was a veteran, a mentor, a patron of the arts, and an icon. In my house, Stanley was a member of our family and one of my mother's dearest friends. So while she cannot attend today, she has prepared some words to share with all of us that celebrate and cherish his life. I will now recite her speech that talks about their early moments. Little did I know when I entered Stanley Keilson's Speech 101 class as a wide-eyed 17-year-old, he would become a friend and a member of my family. He was a teacher and mentor. I remember at the semester's end, he told me, matter-of-factly, I want you to be the tutor for the speech department. I mentioned that I was not eligible for work study. His reply was simply, don't worry about that. I can hire who I want. And he did. The following year, I was promoted to speech department secretary and became Stanley's Penelope, a nickname he would use endearingly. Stanley was a man of many layers. He shared his gifts willingly and without reservation. He was a consummate professional and was passionate about theater. I recall spending countless hours running lines with him in preparation for his performances. And his performances were always powerful and memorable. His beloved theater in Round was his crowning achievement. I remember attending a production of one of Stanley's plays when I was merely 10. I remember being a member of the audience, and I became immersed in the story. It was theater at its core. It was Stanley. When he retired, he embraced another passion, travel, and he went to work part-time at a travel agency to be able to take all his trips. Traveling by train was his absolute favorite. In my time with Stanley, I learned Stanley loved three things most in life: theater, travel, and his adopted home of Laredo, Texas. We were lucky to have him in our lives, and we continue to feel his impact on our community. And this dedication is a small acknowledgement of his dedication for the love of Laredo, the love of theater, and the love of Laredo College. Since we're in a theater today that I've performed at many times, and as Stanley used to lovingly say, was a big part of my cheering section, I think of Hamilton when I think of Stanley, and I think of the song, "Who lives, who dies, and who tells your story?" And I'd like to leave you all with this. I hope that we tell Stanley's story for many years to come and long after we're gone. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tori. Beautiful. And please give your mother our love and thank her for her words as well. There was another side of Stanley that he didn't necessarily do, but he inspired. During the latter years of Stanley's life, in addition to fueling the fire for this event. He also inspired my wife, Tina, and me to figure out a way to connect him to Laredo College indefinitely, in addition to the ways we're going to honor him in this house. So we set the foundation for a scholarship fund in Stanley's name. And that allowed people to donate as part of his obituary and part of the services that we had. I had previously been on the board of directors of the Laredo Area Community Foundation, LACF. I believe in that organization wholeheartedly and the good that it does in perpetuity in this community. And I was so delighted to be able to get that going, and we did. I've invited Tina Cerda, who is the president today of the Laredo Area Community Foundation, to talk a little bit about what the scholarship fund is. And you'll note in the program, the inside back cover, there is a bit of information about that scholarship fund, and if you so choose, how you might be able to make a small donation or a large donation in Stanley's name. In event, I'll let Tina talk to you about how that scholarship works. Tina Cerda.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is an honor to be here today. I am so impressed by the beautiful memories you have all shared about such a wonderful man, somebody that made such a striking commitment and impact on our community. A special thank you to Joe Arciniega for inviting me to be part of this meaningful celebration. My name is Tina Holiday Cerda, and I am honored to serve as president of the Laredo Area Community Foundation. This morning, we gathered to celebrate the legacy of a remarkable educator, Stanley Keilson, a man whose dedication to teaching left a lasting impression on countless lives throughout South Texas. While I can't say I knew him personally, I do know the impact he made. He was my mother's teacher and drama coach during the Laredo State University days, and when I mentioned his name, without hesitation, she said, "Oh, I loved Stanley." I know you feel the same. As the years go by, there will be fewer people who remember Stanley firsthand. But because of Joe and Tina's vision and the generosity of all who contribute, his legacy will live on, touching new generations of students through the Stanley A. Keilson Memorial Scholarship at Laredo College. This scholarship supports students pursuing degrees in the arts or education, fields closest to Stanley's heart, and it will live in perpetuity. This means Stanley will continue to shape the lives of teachers and artists who help our community grow and thrive forever. And really, what better way is there to live on? If Stanley made a difference in your life, large or small, I encourage you to honor him by supporting the scholarship. No gift is too small, but we really do love big gifts. We're provided self-addressed envelopes that'll be up here on the table, and I have to say, a special thank you to my husband because I forgot them and he dropped everything and raced over here to deliver them. So please don't let them go unused. Let me brag in a few weeks about how well that all worked out. Rest assured, as the Stanley A. Keilson Memorial Scholarship grows, so will his legacy. Thank you again, Joe and Tina, for your heartfelt commitment to keeping Stanley's memory alive and ensuring that he remains a part of Laredo's future. Thank you.
Well, this was a special moment, certainly in my life, and I believe with all my heart that it is so in Stanley's. Before I invite the Keilson Hurwitz family up on stage, since we're going to end up on stage anyway for the reception, we'll let them get up here. And I've asked Sonny Wager, one of Stan's cousins, who was actually there with me in those final difficult years of Stanley's life. She was front and center with me as well. I've asked her to come up, just say a few words of thanks, and to introduce the members of Stanley's family to all of you before we invite everyone up. Before that happens, I lead you to the program, those of you who have it, that has the photographs. Near the end, it's a centerfold. Stanley's a centerfold. I just want to point out a couple of memorable things that are represented in these photos, which we so carefully chose. I'm proud and happy to be one of those people in the picture with Mark Gonzalez and Joe Flores. The reason that's so important is that photograph with Stanley was one of his favorite pictures that he had framed in his home, because he would say, there's 3 generations of theater in that photo. And I'd say, well, no, Stan, there's actually 4. And he'd say, no, you and I are the same age. And I said, no, Stan. Joe Flores and Mark are currently teaching drama and film production with the Laredo Independent School District, part of the Vidal M. Trevino Magnet School of Fine Arts. Stanley loved them. He saw many of their productions, and they loved back on Stanley, and so I was happy to have that there, Joe. Stan's military picture. I love the picture of the 4. There's Mr. Elmo Lopez, there's Hortense Offerly, and Sam Johnson, and Stan there. These were the people who did My Fair Lady in 1965. Sam Johnson produced and directed it. Mr. Elmo Lopez conducted the orchestra. Hortense Offerly played Eliza, and Stan played Henry Higgins. But I do want to just ask to stand a friend of mine, Mr. Edgardo Bueno, who was in the band, in the orchestra. Mr. Bueno, would you please stand? Thank you. There's a picture of Stan with some of his friends, and I apologize, I don't know who was in that photo, but I loved it because Stan loved that picture on front of the boat. But at the bottom is a very special picture. On Stan's 80th birthday, his cousin Sonny Wager and his other cousin Ivan Hurwitz and his brother Jerry all were on a boat with Stanley out in, I guess, somewhere in Austin, Ivan, Lake Austin? Yes, Lake LBJ. And Stan had such a wonderful time, and I love that picture. And that photo of Stan apparently is the inspiration for the portrait that Sam Hurwitz did, which is featured in the center of the following page with some of Stan's dramatic acting day pictures. If you turn the page, you will see the aforementioned Estelle Hurwitz, Stan's beloved mother. He loved her with all his heart. And there is no story of Stan complete without his pets. So there's Chulo, his cat, who was the orneriest cat you could ever imagine. Unbelievable. But we had to tolerate Chulo because Stan made us. And there's a picture of Sylvie and Lucky, his 2 dogs that he adopted at the end. Same thing like the story that was already told. These were not his dogs, but he just was always interacting with them. And then one day I showed up at his house, and he had the 2 dogs in the backyard, and he said, guess whose dogs these are now? I said, Stan, you have 24-hour caregivers, and you've added 2 dogs. But he wouldn't let that pass by. And then in the end story, he made me promise that they had to be adopted together. They could not be separated. And I said, Stan, I don't see how that's going to happen. And he said, it has to happen, and I have 4 people who will do it. So don't worry, Joe. Well, in the result, the 4 people didn't want to adopt both of them together. So I said, well, Tina, I'm going to have to let one adopt the poodle and one adopt the schnauzer. And Tina said, no. Guess who ended up with Sylvie and Lucky? And we already had another old dog, and we had a cat. So we lived them through the ends of their lives. They were delightful pets. Holy cow, what we would have done without those two dogs, right, Tina? And then I have to mention, and I have to tell just a very brief story. Please indulge me. The bottom corner picture is a picture of Stan and his beautiful brother, Dr. Jerry Keilson. Jerry was Stan's younger brother. But Stan looked up to him like he was his hero. Jerry became a physician. Stan would tell me, he did everything right, Joe. He became a physician. He married a lovely lady. They had two sons. He became a grandparent. And Stan would say, look, here I am all by myself. And so he said, I told Jerry, now that means you have to take care of me too. And I got to know Jerry on the phone. Many, many conversations because they spoke frequently. Unfortunately, Dr. Keilson had a stroke and was himself, lived in Dallas, very successful physician, was himself hospitalized. It was very sad. It broke Stanley's heart that his brother was literally unable to care for himself. But they talked on the phone all the time. And I'm going to tell you something. When we were standing vigil for Stanley, because I was called and they said, you have to come, and it was hours and hours. We knew it was the end. And at about 2 a.m. that morning, I received a call from David, Stanley's nephew, Dr. Keilson's son, to tell me that Jerry passed away. We actually thought for a period that they would both die on the same day. Stan died the following day, early the following day. And isn't that fitting? There's no way Stan was going to share the spotlight, not even with Jerry. But my heart includes Dr. Gerald Keilson because you couldn't separate those two. And look at them here in their prime of their youthful beauty in their white dinner jackets. And that picture had to go in here. With that, I would like to invite the Keilson and Hurwitz family to please make your way up. I know that, and there's a ramp here for those that may need it. And yes, thank you. And while they're doing that, I want to thank every single one of you for being here. These are not at the age when you're talking about someone who is 100 years old. There aren't a lot of people that you can draw together by that stage, no matter how fabulous the person and their lives were. So it warms my heart beyond words that I can express. And I must tell you, although I won't play it because I still can't hear it without getting very moved, I have saved on my phone a voicemail message from Stanley. You have to keep listening to parts of it and resave it because otherwise the system deletes it. So every couple of weeks I listen to it and I just go, oh my God, okay, save. And it was when we had a party for Stanley on his 90th birthday at my house, and his family came at that time as well. His 90th birthday was 10 years ago. And the Laredo Times put him on the front page of the newspaper. They came, they sent a reporter and interviewed Stanley and put him on the front page. And the next day, and I didn't know that was going to happen either. The next day, Stanley calls me and left a message on my voicemail. He called me at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And the voicemail I have, he's saying, there's someone on the cover of the newspaper today that I think I know pretty well. Joe, make your way up here. I don't want to delay you. Joe, you're never going to believe it. Go buy a paper right now. It's the sweetest message, and I still have it. And I can imagine how delighted he would be with today. I introduce Miss Sunny Wager, who is going to speak on behalf of the family and introduce you to all the members of the family. You can all just stand right I think that that's okay. Right, you can leave it right there. I'm gonna have Sunny there. Oh, sorry. Yes. Yes, we're just waiting for Sunny. Yes. Yes. Kathy, please introduce yourself and.
Sunny will be here in just a moment, but while we're waiting for her, on behalf of the family, I just want to make sure that you all understand how very, very grateful we are for you all being here. But I especially want to say thank you to Tina and Joe Arciniega. This is just beyond belief. His dedication to his friend Stanley is beyond remarkable. So just thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tina.
You want here?
Thank you. This is Ivan Hurwitz. He is Stanley's cousin. And when you heard about Stanley taking care of Estelle, Stanley took care of Ivan's father and Sonny's mother as well. When they were sick at the end of their lives, it was not, should I come? Stanley was there taking care of all of them. And just being Stanley, just as Stanley always was. This is Ivan's son, Isaac, and his son, Sam. Sam is the artist whose painting you're going to see. This is Sherry Hurwitz, the boy's mother, and her partner, Debbie Gorens. And this is, back there, Sonny's son, Brian, and his wife, Wendy. So, okay. Here she comes. Sonny is on her way.
Do we wait for Sunny, or should we unveil the? Okay. You want to? Cristian. Just be careful. You want to stand behind the podium? Okay.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you for waiting for me. I could play Stanley and do hello. I'm Stanley's cousin, but I was really young when he moved to Laredo. And I just have one thing to say. Love in your heart is here to stay. But love till the end. Is given away. And Stanley gave every inch of himself to all of you and to us. So let's remember him and go from there. Thank you for celebrating Stanley. He was a wonderful man, and we love him.
Thank you, Sonny. Lovely. Thank you. Okay, with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, and with that, we're going to unveil the portrait. And so we're going to ask you all to open up here just a little bit. And Sam, if you'll join me, so you can help us with the portrait. And Joe. So on behalf of Laredo College, the Guadalupe and Lilia Foundation, Joe and Tina, and our team here at Laredo College, our family here at Laredo College, this is what will permanently be placed here inside the theater. So thanks to the generosity of the Guadalupe and Lilia Martinez Foundation, we are making some renovations to the theater. And so I'd like to recognize Ana, if you'll come up here and join us as well. So many of us have been benefited from the Guadalupe and Lilia Foundation, and certainly the Theater of Laredo. And I say that generously because Laredo Little Theater, Laredo Theater Guild, our high school theater programs, Laredo College theater program, and so many other arts in Laredo have been supported and helped by the generosity of the foundation and its trustees. And so thank you, Ana, for continuing the legacy of Tio Lupe and Tia Lilia. You have done an amazing job, as your mom and your dad have as well. And so we're very grateful to your help and support for all of this. And I know that the family and Joe and Tina and I and all of us here, thank you all for your kindness and your generosity and for always supporting us. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us on stage for refreshments and for photographs. Thank you all for joining us for this very, very special birthday of our friend, our teacher, our educator, and community member, Stanley Keilson.